So value is measured at the time of purchase. So electronics. So let's think about a computer. Would I work for you? Using a computer as an example. Okay. So you go buy a computer and then you see a Dell for $1,000, and you look at the features and so forth, and then you see Apple for $2,000. So it's twice, but it's going to be the same usage. You have an understanding of computer which is not zero, but you're not, let's say, a computer engineer. Let's to simplify. So you're a normal plus person that has experience with computers, and at that moment is the Dell looks like there's more plastic. The Dell looks like it's a really good deal because it seems to be doing as much as the Apple, and you decide that you're going to buy the Dell, and the Dell at that time is $1,000 for essentially the same thing as what the $2,000 app is doing. When this person looks at this, they see value. They go, you know what? The Dell is value. It's $1,000 for 10 features versus the Apple is a $2,000 for 10 features. So they buy the Dell, and then very soon after they have viruses, and they have to get a software to go against the viruses, and the fan goes on, and you know, it's a little clingy and all that, but they get along and they do all of these things and all that. Then they graduate, and then they go and work in digital media and all that, and then they see everybody as a Mac where they work, and they are the only one with a Dell, and then they're not satisfied anymore. It's afterwards because they start seeing what other people do. So satisfaction is suddenly you have expectation. You see these people, they tell you, oh, I've had my Mac for 2 years, and I have this kind of support when it doesn't work. I don't get viruses. I don't know what you're talking about. Never had a virus, and so forth and so forth. And suddenly they have new expectations. Oh, I thought that you would get viruses and you have to get a new software against viruses every 6 months. All these people with the Apples never do that. What's going on? They have new expectations. You're not supposed to get viruses, or not that much. Now it's been 2 or 3 years down the road. They have new expectation. They go back to the store, and now the Dell is 1,100 because it's been 2 years, and the Mac is 2,100. Now, based on their expectations, based on their experience, they look at the Mac and say 2,100. That's value, because I know what I pay and I know what I'm going to get at that moment. Then they buy the Mac, and let's say 3 months after, they get a virus. They're very dissatisfied. At the time, they had value. At the time of purchase, it was perceived value. Now the perceived satisfaction is negative because 3 months after, they get a virus. I bought a Mac. I spent more money. I raised my expectation for a Mac, and now I'm getting a problem. So the performance is not meeting my expectations. There is a disconfirmation. There's a gap. So when you sell products, I'm not saying one is better than the other. What I'm saying is that the person experience, the person need has changed. That's also what's interesting in business, is the customers are not the same. And so there's all kinds of theory that says, I just throw one here, very simple, is you have different expectation when you are 15 years old, when you're 25 years old, when you're 55 years old, and when you're 75 years old, because you have a different lifestyle, you've changed, and therefore what you expect and how you perceive things evolves, because you have a different ranking of the importance of what you're going to get, and so forth. So in business, they know all of this. So oftentimes what they do is they make different brands of product. They make different brands in order to satisfy the different type of customers. They're going to make the Dell model type of things, but they are the same one that own. They can make a higher one, and they're going to make the Mac of this world. And that way they meet the perceived value of all the different customers, and they get the perceived satisfaction of all of these different customers. What is wrong is when businesses do not understand the concept of value, which is decided at the point of purchase, and value is not measured after that. After that, what's measured is satisfaction. So oftentimes people think, oh, I'm still thinking about my value. I've had this car for 2 years. No, your value is when you drove out of the dealership. Now you moved into the stage of satisfaction. Are you satisfied or not satisfied? Right? And so when you're a brand, you also think of planned obsolescence. So now I feel almost like Phil saying, you know, I'm just being obnoxious, but I'm gonna go like this, you know, like, all right, let's talk about planned obsolescence. Maybe you get the message. Let's talk about planned obsolescence. So businesses, they also do planned obsolescence because they know, because they've measured satisfaction. So they know that people buy a car, and for most of the time, and 40 years ago, they bought a car, they kept it 10 years. Now they don't buy cars, they lease cars. So because they lease cars, they know the lease are 2 years. So when they make those cars, they make sure that they are very dependable, very reliable, at least for 2 years for the first customer. Then they'll give a little bit of slack sometimes to make the car maybe reliable for another year, 3 years, because there's a warranty, there's a mileage, there's a thing like that they have to take into consideration. But they do not make the products to be good for more than the warranty. Why don't they make the car from day one? So I'm not saying, and maybe they do, but I'm going to hope that they don't. They don't make, let's say they don't make the car with defects that they know will break after 3 years and 2 minutes. But what they do is they make them having tested the components to at least have this lifespan. So when it's 2 years and 5 minutes, things happen because they've been cheap on the components, and they've been cheap on the components. That way they could keep the price down so they can be competitive for the first buyer who's going to look at value. What? Oh yeah, the first buyer, you're right, looks at value. The first buyer says, you know, I want all of this good luxury and all that for $50,000. If that car was made in the 70s, it would have not been $50,000. With the components they used in the 70s, this car would have been $70,000. But if it was $70,000, they would not be competitive today. So they use lesser good components. That way they can make it for $50,000, and they are competitive, and therefore they are perceived as value by the first buyer, because that's the person who spends $50,000. The person down the road is going to spend $25,000. And because they bought it used, it's used. What do you expect? It's used, it's going to break. And with this mentality that you expect it to break, people who buy it, they go, oh, you know what? I'm buying a $50,000 for $25,000. That's value. So they are happy with the value. Then they drive it. It's a used car. In the back of their head is, when is this thing's going to break? Then 6 months after it breaks, and everybody says, well, you bought a used car. No, it's normal that it breaks. And so that mentality, even from the consumer perspective, that wants cheaper things and better, has generated eventually the push for companies. So it's like the chicken or the egg. Are the companies the greedy one that makes crappy things that break after the things? Or are the people obnoxious and they want to change their car too often to the point that the car company have no other choices than make things that go crappy after 3 years? You see, it's the chicken and the egg. Personally, if I had to really make a decision and had no choice, I would say it started by the automaker company. Why? Because the automaker company, and I could say electric toothbrush, if you want, I can use another example. These are the one that really started because eventually these businesses became a big corporation, which means, you know, you have this company that started it, and it was started by Phillips, by Mr. Phillips and his son, John, And eventually John inherited it, and it was a family business. And eventually they were trying to make good things because they didn't want to look like a firm. Eventually that company is bought by a bigger corporation that is called Money Geneva. And this company, Money Geneva, own all of these different brands. And essentially they are accountants. They are not marketers. They become accountants. And so those accountants, they go in there and they are the one that makes the decision. They say, they work with the marketing. So there's a lot of friction with the marketing because the marketing people will say, we need to create value. And the accountant says, okay, let's create value, but I'm going to measure it by the cent. I'm not going to let you have it too easy with excess value. Because as a marketer, that's a big defect is, what do? Is we are pleasers. We're satisfiers. Give them. It's like, oh, you want some meat? Here's some meat. Oh, you're so nice. Here's a free packet of chips. That's the mentality of a marketing person, right? And so the accountant comes and say, hey, why do you give a packet of chips? They came to buy some meat. You give them a free packet of chips. No more free packet of chips. Bad boy. And then they don't give the free packet of chips, but then what about the relationship? Then the person that was having the relationship with the customers becomes a robot. You want this, and become a machine. Then you remove this person, you put an AI instead, because the accountant said, let's put AI, it's even better. So that's the world that we'll live in, where the accountants, where the people in finance are taking over, and eventually it's a fight between the marketer, which is the leader of the pack, trying to help these people, and the accountant. And then you get planned obsolescence because the customers are also on the other side sort of greedy. Okay, does that answer your question?
So if I'm getting this right, the companies are making an internal calculation to say, like, yes, we need to satisfy our customers, but we can't go giving them all the satisfaction. Yes. Otherwise, that's the end of our business model.
Exactly.
And really, like, in a marketer's dream, if he was only concerned about reaching customers and making sure they're satisfied, then all these products would be bulletproof and last a lifetime.
Yes.
But that marketer has to deal with the other economic concerns of the company, and that's obviously not a sustainable.
Exactly. Model. So you totally got it. And so and this is the subject of the class. We're now lost, in case you are wondering.
So they're always kind of walking down the razor's edge between profitability and satisfaction, and we can't satisfy them too much or else we're not profitable.
Okay, so let me rephrase this. So now that I've explained that, is you have dissatisfaction, satisfaction, and over-satisfaction. Which one do you think the marketer wants to do? Over-satisfaction. You got it. So that either I explain it well or you're already smart, maybe both. So the marketer wants over-satisfaction. And then what does the accountant want?
Medium satisfaction.
Oh yeah, like razor edge. I use your example. Yeah. Razor edge.
He doesn't want under satisfaction, but he wants just enough.
Oh, just the accountant, he wants. I mean, and so you can imagine a meeting where you have the marketing people, the finance people, the production people, the engineering people, the accountant, right? And then they decide how good they want to make the product. So the marketers are going to pull towards the advocacy of the customers, the advocacy of the relationship. And then you're going to have the finance people and accountants. They're going to be good buddies. And they're going to go, oh, yeah, we're going to massage you down, you, the marketing people. And then they start massaging down the marketing people. And you know who comes to the rescue of the marketing people? Suddenly, the engineers come to the rescue of the marketing people. Because the engineers, they have pride in the product. So now they hear all those accountants and finance people dumb down the product that they're going to make. Because an engineer knows, what? You're telling me to put less of this quality of plastic and more of that quality of plastic? But that quality of plastic, we know that it has a tension structure of 4 years. After 4 years, they start becoming brittle and they break. And that's the plastic that we use for the radiator. And then people at 5 years time will have starting leak on the radiator due to the plastic on the side that broke because we used a cheaper quality of plastic. Yeah, but we're not trying to make cars that have no problem for 5 years. Who cares? The lease is 2 years plus this and that, 3 years, 4 years. After 4 years, it's not a problem. And so the engineers scratch their head and then they start siding towards the marketing and says, man, those finance and accounting people, they're real a pig because they just want to make it on the edge. I thought this company had a backbone and we were supposed to make the best product in the world. Oh, the best product in the world for the warranty time. And so now let me be nice to the accountants and finance people. In some way, they are correct because the business needs to make profit in order to take this profit and give it back to the engineers to create new products. If we don't have this mega profit, we can't give it to you, the engineers, so you can innovate and create new things. And suddenly the engineers goes, oh, that's true. Okay, we need to be nice to those finance and accounting then, because they're going to give us the money so we can play and invent things. And so you can imagine this politics going on, and then the marketing people can measure the thing and say, man, so we're going to have to make it work for 5 years, maybe 4, so we can count on 4 years, all right? And then some of you maybe are thinking, are every company like that? I thought that Patagonia was not like this, the clothing company Patagonia. I thought that was the opposite for Patagonia. Well, it's true. There are some companies, and that's so refreshing, that are not so much like this, like Patagonia. What do you mean? Well, I have no conflict of interest. I have no shares of Patagonia. I know nobody at Patagonia. I want to disclose this. The people of Patagonia from the get-go have developed a spirit which was, let's try to make the best product that we can, but we are not going to focus on the profits, but we're going to focus on the quality of the product. But we're also not going to worry about fashion, because the problem is fashion is putting pressure on us that we become greedy and pigs and all that. And so therefore, we're going to tell our people, it looks like it was a kid that designed it. The colors are not that fancy. We don't change every year. It is what it is, but we don't use material that deteriorates. The color is going to stay. We use fiber that has been produced by a fair trade type of company from the get-go, from the 70s. This is not something that they did 2 years ago because fair trade became cool. That's what they've done the entire time. And when they make products, they test them to last for 10 years. You know, like the stitching of the button, the stitching of the neck, and so they really stand behind the product. And so personally, I recommend everyone who's a consumer to realize that you are very impactful on where you spend your money. And consumers are more and more being impactful. You know, I'm not saying become a vegetarian, but maybe eat less meat. That's sort of, it's this thing that you have to go with moderation. The problem is we live in a society where we self-destruct ourselves in the sense that people want meat every day. People don't realize that meat was an animal. Then we create farm factories where the animals are mistreated. They don't even develop. They are very fatty. They're full of antibiotic. Then we wonder why we have resistance to antibiotic. Then we wonder why there are mutation of various things, bacteria and viruses and all this. Life is a cycle. The crap that you create on one side comes back in your face later down the road. So consumers have a huge power, which is where do you spend your money? What satisfies you? How do you get satisfied? And so therefore, satisfaction is something that keeps moving. But I think people need to use knowledge and as objective knowledge as much as possible. They need to educate themselves in a way that it's not just beliefs, but it's supported and then make decision that is, okay, who is making, the phones is the same. If you look at the iPhone, it's like round, square, round, square, round, square, round, square. And they do that because they want people to notice that you have the old version. Now they've done it so many times, round, square, round, square, round, square, that people still have versions that are from three generations before. But because 3 generations before they were round, if you get the new one that is square or round, it's hard to see which one do you have. It worked very well at the beginning by using the round, square, because after a few times, it doesn't have the same impact. So what they do is they do a software update, app update, for eventually the phone not to work anymore. So then they tell us on one side, oh, you need to be sustainable, oh, you need to protect the environment. But on the other side is they create this obsolescence that is generating huge pressure on people to change. And so people make decisions when they vote, people make decisions when they buy. And so it's very interesting that there are companies now that are starting to think in terms of sustainability and the fact that people can fix it themselves. Make it easy to the point that even people can fix it themselves. It doesn't have to have so many functions. The more function doesn't mean it's better. So, yeah.
Have you been keeping up with the right to repair movement and the possibility of that actually like coming into legislation in the future?
Well, yes, I've heard about it, but you see, like I said, I been teaching since 95. I was saying this in 95. The students thought I was a communist. Yeah. I have not changed. I've been saying that since 95. There's so many things, and people thought I was a communist. And I'm not saying it's bad to be a communist, but in America, people look down on communists. So I use this example here. If I was in Russia and I was saying that, I'd be in really big trouble, I guess. So no, it was wrong. You see, we have so many exercises, and there's, the first one is coming this Tuesday. We have the first group. So we have team 1 presenting the Mattis, the client case, and then team 5 is doing this epistemology. These exercises are going to make us think outside of the box and the impact that we have on the society. So you're right, there's a lot of hypocrisy, and it's sort of mass hypnosis in getting people to be hypnosed on thinking one way when in fact it goes against their own interest. And so this concept of satisfaction is extremely important, and it's very important to see that you have an ethical responsibility when you're doing this. Before we take a break, because we'll take a short break before Tariq comes, I want to finish with this. So when I ask people what is marketing, rarely they tell me satisfaction. But the thing that 99% of the time people say, they say it's the 4 Ps. It's sort of the 101 basic knowledge when you talk about marketing. Like I go ski, I'm on the ski lift, and the person asks me, what do you do? Oh, I teach marketing. And then they say, oh, I did an MBA. I remember it was the 4 Ps. That's like the typical answer you would get. So I wanted to make sure that to finish with this. So the marketing is the 4 Ps, which is product, price, promotion, and place. It was created like this in the late 50s. So it's been like this for a long time. And it was created like that because they wanted to have a simple recipe to explain marketing back then. And even though this is oversimplistic, it's still very useful because it's still easy to understand it, and it's still very applicable. The idea is marketing breaks down as 4 pillars. The pillar of the product, what you're making, the brand, the packaging, the services, and then the price, what you're going to sell it for, which is very important. As we saw with the example of Stan Smith, if you sell this shoe for $75, you just don't sell any. It's kind of crazy. But at $380, you sell not a lot, but enough that this makes it profitable because people have expectations. Promotion is all the concept that has to do with communication. So sales is oftentimes put either in promotion, but sometimes it's also put in place because it's about where do you sell and so forth. But sales is obviously very important. I think, in fact, sales in a business is the most important function because without sales, nothing happens. Sales is like the blood in someone's body. No blood, it doesn't work. So you need this. It's like the fuel in a car. That sales is extremely important. And then the place is the distribution. So just to finish, promotion and place are the two that are confusing because promotion should be communication and place should be distribution. But then nobody will remember the 4 P's because it will be the 2 P and the C and the D. So it will be PPCD. So how likely people will remember PPCD versus 4 Ps? So they had to make a managerial decision and find a word that is somewhat appropriate for communication. And therefore it's PPP, promotion. That was the best anyone could think of. And what was the best for distribution with the P? It was place. But I want you to understand that because it's critical. I wouldn't want you to just learn that place is the real. It's the concept of delivery. It's the process of supply of the materials, of the value chain, and of the distribution and of collecting information and all of this. This is inside place versus promotion. There you would have, digital marketing is inside promotion, which is all concept of communication. But I want to take some time just to do a transition, just to recap what needs to be done. That way we're not confused. Okay, so now the exercise that you're going to mostly work on is essentially starting to do some research on the client. The research that you need to do is called SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. Have you ever heard of this concept before? So let me see. So some people have not. I would imagine that most people have not, and the people who have may not understand it enough in order to be able to be 100% comfortable with it. So I will spend some time. It's a very important concept, and it's a concept that you probably heard from Professor de Gravel when he did a management class. It's essential in order to do a report, a business report. Actually, let me tell you something before we talk about this, because I think that's also one thing that people miss. So when you're doing planning in business, there's a lot of things to take into account, a lot of decisions. So you take the chicken and the egg, and you go and make circles, and we need customers, but we need the money, no, but we need the product. Which product? Where do we sell it? Who's going to be buying it? Where do we spend most of it? So you have to do what's called a business plan. Do you know what is a business plan? Anyone knows what is a business plan? The reality is most people don't know what's a business plan, and most business professors don't know even what's a business plan. That's been my experience in 30 years, because I've had professors before, and I go, because I have the highest rank in the academia, I actually go every 2 weeks in the class of a professor to actually review them, to grade them, because the university is constantly looking for promoting people, and I have the highest promotion, so they can promote me further. So they send me to do the review of other professors that are less, and I see them talk about business plan, but they're confused. So what's the confusion? So if you ask someone what's a business plan, they tell you a business plan is a report that you write that explains what you're going to sell, where you're going to sell it, how much money, and the budgets and all it's going to cost and all this. Oh, if they tell you this, that's pretty good. But let me explain it to you in a way that not even Wikipedia explains it, and it's very simply explained. A business plan does not exist in a way. So what do you mean? A business plan only exists because it has planned inside that exist. So a business plan is the combination of accounting and budget finance plan, HR plan, a production plan, a schedule plan, a legal plan, an operation plan, a marketing plan. So people that say, if you tell them, can you write a business plan? And they say, yes. And then you say, oh, could you write a production plan? Oh, I can't do that. Oh, could you write a schedule plan? No, I can't do that. Could you write a HR plan or a legal plan? Oh, I can't do that. Oh, you can't do that, but you can write a business plan, but you can't write these? Yeah. So then you sort of wonder what they're going to write because they are missing the sections which are inside the business plan. In this class, I am not going to teach you to write a business plan because I'm essentially focusing on the marketing plan, which is one of the plan inside. But it's still important that I put it back into the context of business overall, of this is one report that goes inside. Okay, so it's like, so what's the MIA cohort 9? Well, the MIA cohort 9 is essentially, it's nothing. It's Amy, it's Michael, it's Alexa, it's right. These are the people inside the cohort, and they make the cohort exist. If there's no such a thing as a MIA person, this MIA person is represented by the component. So a business plan does not exist. A business plan is a collection of existing plans that go inside. So it's very important to tell you this, because oftentimes people say, look at each other. I go in meetings, and someone look at the other person and say, all right. But what's your business plan? And then the other person say, my business plan is to buy low and sell high. That's not a business plan. That's your business model, maybe. Or it's one of the things that you're going to do, but it's not the business plan. The business plan is a much bigger picture. So then you may say, well, but professor, you're playing with words. There's now everybody is a marketing professor, a business professor, an academic that know all the terms and the intricacies, and that's sort of a detail. Is it possible to be, I don't know, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and not know what's a business plan and still be successful? It's possible, but I don't recommend it. I think I recommend to understand what it is and to know what it's made of. Okay, so this plan, the business plan, has also an executive summary, and that's the summary of all of these plans that are the components. So now, when you write a marketing plan, so that's the blue side, one of the components that is the most important is the second little rectangle, the one that says situation analysis and SWOT. If you notice, I've bolded the O and underlined the O because oftentimes that is the most difficult part in the entire report. So just to put it into perspective, it's probably 30% of the work. So you have like 50 sections, and there's one that is 30% of the work. Could it be more than 30%? Yes. Could it be less than 30%? I doubt. So it's more likely to be even more than 30 than less. So what is this O? And that's where now I jump in this slide. The O is the gap in the market that you have to identify. Everyone who's successful, every business that is successful because of a gap, a solution that they provide. You see, business people, they are interested in problems and solutions. What is the solution? It's fine. What is the problem is even more important, because there could be many solutions to solve the same problem. So what's an opportunity? An opportunity is essentially a problem, a change, a fact. An opportunity is a fact. So let me now define each one of these specifically. And so what you need to know is S and W are internal. Internal means it's the analysis of the company itself, the client. their strengths and their weaknesses. What are they good at? What they're not so good at. The opportunity and threats are not part of the company. They are outside of the company. So if you say Nishwaki is young and energetic, what is that? That's a strength. It's Nishwaki strength of being young and energetic. He has a good voice. That's a strength. Now, if you say people, top 5 reason for liking a singer is the quality of their voice, that's an opportunity. Is that the voice is an important element when people are looking at an artist, a singer, in determining if they're going to buy their songs or follow them or whatever. So you have to really separate the internal versus the external. The internal are usually the easiest thing to work on. Sometimes they are very easy. The opportunities, as I said, is most of the time are very extremely difficult. 99% of the time, they're very, 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 very difficult. The threats, not so much. The most common threat are the competitors. What are the other singers doing? There's more than just competitors, but just to summarize it, in the most common threat are other competitors. The other very big common threat is a change in the environment where the customers are less interested in consuming something because it's less desirable. So you have to think about vinyl disc in the late 1980s. Were they still selling vinyl disc in the late 1980s? Yes. Was there some kind of threat? Yes. It's a technology threat because people were more and more into CD. So the fact that there was a technological change, that technological change was a threat for a certain industry. So threats are not just competitors. The two most common are trends, consumer trends change, and competitors. And then there's some technological disruption. There's also some regulation as well. Sometimes can be changing everything. A change of regulation can be the end of what is going on. Okay, so here's a simple exercise. You have this duck. It's a decoy duck that is used for hunting. Okay, and it's a vintage decoy duck. You've got this in your garage. You don't even know why it ended up in your garage. Maybe it was a heirloom that you inherited inside a box and you went from member of the family and it ended up in your garage. What do? Well, I take it, put it in a box and throw it in the trash. But that's an option. No, I take it and put it on my fireplace mantle to decorate. Okay, that's another option. Another one is I sell it. But where do you sell it? How do you sell it? Where do you sell it? How much is it worth? I actually found this decoy for sale on eBay right now for $2,500. What? I had this decoy for $2,500 in my garage? How? Hey, honey, how long have we had this? I don't know. I think we've had it at least 15 or 20 years. What? $2,500. I go sell it right away. Will it sell? This thing actually sold for $2,500. But therefore, what is the message I'm giving here? Is that things are worth nothing for some people, and they're worth a lot for some other people, which means that you cannot do something that is as equal value. Remember, we talked about value before, equal value for everyone. Everything is good for someone specific, right? We're all worth more depending on who you're talking to. So that's the point. So therefore you're saying, okay, so what's the opportunity? The opportunity, what would be the opportunity of supporting the fact that you're selling a duck hunting decoy for $2,500? What are the opportunities supporting this, do you think?
There's a market of people that would be interested in it.
Yeah, so almost is the answer of Denise, I think, or whoever said that, says they are decoy collectors. That's what you're saying. There's a target. They are fancy, rare, vintage decoy collectors. First opportunity. What are their next opportunities? eBay is an online platform that allows you to be seen by hundreds of millions of people every day. And it has a simple search engine that doesn't require a huge amount of knowledge in order to be able to search for things. Second one, a decoy collector go once a week on eBay according to Nielsen data. So that's a third opportunity. So opportunities are external. Opportunities are not the elements of the company. They are in the market, changes in the market. So I give you all kinds of different examples here. I will continue giving more and more examples, but what I want to jump in is if you go to the presentation. So the first presentation is this Tuesday, and that one is on Matus. So you'll see that Matus, they had one weakness, which is they had no money, zero budget, maybe $200 to spend in marketing. That was the question from Amy Louis asking them, what's your budget? And I think he said $1,000 essentially. So that's not much, very little. And so with this, that was the weakness. The strength is they were good singers as well. Their songs were, after two or three times you heard it, you really had the rhythm and all this. It was very well sorted. The opportunities, well, it was tough because it's rock and roll. So that was more of a threat. There's a decreasing sales of rock and roll, but the opportunity there is, sync, lots of sync projects that would like this kind of music that they had. So I'm not want to do the Matus presentation because that's the group doing it on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. But the trick is, it is very important to understand those concepts of SWOT. And one that is particularly difficult to explain this is the group that's going to do the Forbidden Band. The Forbidden Band is a very subtle way of doing it. And because the Forbidden Band also has a problem with budget, and they're also doing something that is very politically correct, but at the same time that nobody wants to get involved. The Forbidden Band has a message, which is a message of world peace and anti-racism, and very strong. That's the project that will be done by another team. So many people embrace this concept, but when it comes to do anything about it, there's not too many people that get involved. It's sort of a thing that people like to think that it's good to think about and to get involved with, but not many people don't get as involved as one would think. So every one of this project, there's always those angles, there's always those problems, and there's always the benefit, the need to find a solution. I give you another example. A few years back with the students, we were asked to do a project for the American Marketing Educators. So that's the largest association of professors of marketing. This association asked me in my class to do the project. How many people do you think belong to this association? Oh, how many people? No, let me put it. How many marketing professors do you think there is in the United States? So you have no idea. There's 45,000 professors of marketing. 45,000. How many members are in the American Marketers Educators Association? How many people do you think are in this association? Also, you said 200, 10%. So actually 200, you are, someone said 3,000. Well, the reality is there's 125. So 125 members of the marketing professors, American marketing professors, yet the opportunity. So what's the opportunity? The opportunity is in the United States of America, there's 45,000 people in the organization. So then it was kind of funny because they came to see me and say, hey, we have a problem. 10 years ago, we had 200. Now we have 125. It keeps going down and down and down. And we need to do something in order to grow the number. Could you take it as a project in your class? I know you're doing consulting and all that. I took these MBA students, I put it on this project, and the MBA students came in one time and they said, Professor, it's kind of funny that we students are telling what the marketing professor should do in order to grow the number of marketing professor in the marketing association. It's like the shoemaker has the word shoes, right? And I said, yes, you see, it's a good description, is they can't even do marketing of themselves. And then they asked me, okay, so what do we do? And I scratched my head and I said, you know what? Sometimes you have to go around the bush. And they said, what do you mean around the bush? I said, you see, what you do is you use politics in your advantage. How do you do that? I said, what we do is that association, because I asked the students, do you know that marketing professors receive not even 1 hour of teaching curriculum in their entire life? And then the professor said, what do you mean? Well, they are professors, means they teach. How much teaching have they received to become a teacher? And they say, I don't know. I mean, probably a lot. No, zero. To become a marketing teacher, you don't have to have any teaching credentials. So what do you need to have? Well, you need to have a research PhD, means that you publish papers. So, wow, that's really interesting. So you need to have a PhD license, PhD degree, and that means that you're a good teacher. The reality is there's no connection between the two. That's what I think. But I said, so what we're going to do is we're going to have to do something political. So we're going to have to tell the association that they do a certificate. Like when you're a member of the American Marketing Educators Association, you have the possibility to do a certificate. And then with this certificate, that means the association has certified you as having the credential of being a teacher. And I said at the beginning, it's not going to be very good because there's only 125, 30, 200 and whatever. But eventually there will be a political pressure for the teachers to be sort of a member and also get a certificate like this. So the students said, brilliant, that's the opportunity. The opportunity is people are more and more asked to have more certificates in order to get credentials. So they're doing this right now. This is the new thing. It started a week ago. The university is asking the professors to ask the students to do activities where the students are getting credentials and certificates. So it's like, get them to do the Google assignment. If they do the Google assignment, they get a Google certificate for whatever. Ask them to do the HubSpot. HubSpot is an online marketing company. And this online marketing company offers certificates. Now, why do they offer certificates? Is because they know that eventually there will be people getting their certificate. And once people get their certificate, they say, oh, I've got a HubSpot certificate. And everybody goes, what's a HubSpot? And then they Google HubSpot.com and they go, wow, that's a really good company. Oh, you got a certificate from them? Ooh, maybe I should get a certificate. And then everybody wants to get a certificate, and then it promotes HubSpot. And then what it does is it takes away from the university to some extent, being teachers and offering degrees. And now the degrees are coming from Google, Facebook, McDonald's, and everybody can produce a thing. But that was the idea for that association, to produce their own certificate in order to promote the fact that their members are certified, for the university, who are very political, to eventually ask the professor, oh, if you're in the association, that's really good. That way you'll get the certification and it looks like you have been certified, it looks better. And then we can tell that we have professors that are certified and so forth and so forth. It's very political and that's how it works. When the students presented that to the directors and board members of the American marketing educators. They thought this was a brilliant idea. They thought that the students were fantastic, but they hated the idea. And they didn't want to do it because it was taking a lot of courage for the first member to have the audacity to start producing certification for a month, 2 months, 3 years, until people starting biting the bait, and then building the momentum, building the spillover, building the movement. And so they were afraid. They didn't do it. And now they still have 110 members or whatever. It's not growing, to the point that there's another association that created itself that has now thousands of members, which is an association that's just created recently because they have a better marketing. So it's very important to see that in order to grow a business, you have to understand the concept of movement, the concept of momentum, the concept of opportunity that you can take advantage of in order to create a momentum. So when you study a client, like you're doing here, that's what you're going to look for. You're going to be essentially searching for some movements that Nishwaki can take advantage of, some changes that they can take advantage of. And as you will see on Wednesday with Mattis, it's sometimes not possible to take advantage of the big movement, because to take advantage of a big movement, oftentimes you require a big budget. So sometimes you have to create stages. And I talked about this last Wednesday, phases. And inside a Mattis, there's phases are explained and so forth. At this time, there may be a situation where you have sort of, you're not sure all of this work, because the idea is that you have to do it. Once you do it, it becomes more clear what are the concept of opportunities, because I will try to steer you towards, okay, this is correct, this is not correct.